So, what's happening over in Romania? The election has been annulled, and now the Liberal Party that supports the European Union, they're creating a coalition now, to get rid of the far right party, the leader, and the guy who won recently. His name is Călin Georgescu, and he was one who won. But they stopped the elections to say that it's Russian interference, and then also there's a lot of corruption that they're claiming. And then in the newspapers saying that he's a conspiracy theorist, but he's also going against NATO, against the operations. So they're trying to stop him and bring him down. But here's the real backstory of what's really happening. It's important to understand. You have the UK Majesty, King Charles. He talks about his blood ties that's connected to Vlad the Impaler. And Vlad the Impaler, as you know, is the story of Dracula. But the story of Dracula isn't really true. That's just fiction that was created by Bram Stoker. That's just a story that was created. But the true parts are that Vlad the Impaler, he did impale people. And impaling means that you get a spear and you put it through the rectum of a man, or you put it through the vagina, and it comes out through the neck, through the top of the chest. And they do it in a certain slow way that the person bleeds to death. And it can take days, it can take hours or days. And Vlad the Impaler did this. That's why he got his name, for impaling people. And he would trick his opponents. He would have different parts of the country. They would all come to Vlad, and he would bring the families, he would bring the generals. And then in that moment, he would wipe out everyone while everybody was eating. He would have them stabbed, and then he would impale them. Then he also did this. He killed about 80,000 people during his time, and he impaled 20,000 people. So this is where that bloodletting, letting out the blood. There's different stories of what he's done with that blood, but we're not going to talk about the adrenal stuff right now. But that's just to let you know that King Charles is very proud to be a descendant of Vlad the Impaler from Romania. Now there's a reason why that Jimmy Savile, this big pedo operation that he was running inside the United Kingdom, this is the biggest operations that he was running. And he was also knighted. He was knighted by Queen Elizabeth in her time, but he was best friends with King George. So they ran operations through hospitals, through different places where the children's housings, different places that Jimmy Savile was running these operations, and he was being protected by MI6. He was being protected by the agencies over in the UK, because this is all connected to this elite pedo ring that's connected to the elites of Europe, connected to the elites of UK. It's connected to the elites inside Romania. Now we're going to go back to the story of what's really happening with Romania, and it's all connected. Inside of Europe, in Germany, inside of Hungary, inside of Austria, inside of almost all the European Union, there's legal prostitution. So when you go to Hamburg, almost half of all the prostitutes come from Romania. The same with Austria. They have legal prostitution in the streets. They have these houses, they have apartments, and you can see it when you go there. In German or in Austria, they're called Puff houses. So these are legal prostitution with signs, and they call them studios. All of these studios are half filled up with Romanian prostitutes, but this is human trafficking. So you're talking about half of all of Europe's prostitution is coming from Romania. Now the illegal side of the pedo operations that's running from Romania into Poland, and then it runs into Germany. These human trafficking of children, it's also coming from Romania. Romania is one of the most corrupt countries in the world that is running prostitution inside of East Europe. At the same time, it's such a beautiful country when you travel there. The people are really kind. It's really a beautiful country. That's only in the front, but behind the scenes, the people themselves there don't really understand the full corruption. The same in the United States, people don't understand the full corruption of human trafficking. The same in Europe, they don't understand the full corruption of human trafficking. As you now know in the world, the real pandemic is human trafficking. Then after that is the weapons trade, then the drug trade. That's why we come back into Romania. Because the operations of the human sex trades, the pedo operations that involve children, human trafficking, it connects all the way through the Black Sea, the ports of Romania, the CIA operations that run these operations. The human trafficking, they send from Romania into Turkey. They send it on down through the Black Sea. They send it into the Mediterranean Sea. Then they send it all the way around to UK, into Morocco, into Spain, and then it goes out through the world from there. So these operations are huge. At the same time, almost all the weapons that come into Europe illegally, because a lot of places inside the European Union, it's illegal to have guns. It's illegal to have weapons, these guns. And almost all the weapons, they come from Romania. And these operations is connected to CIA operations. It's connected to global networks. It's connected to human trafficking. So that's why the government is really scared that they have people that are from the far right party that we're talking about. This George Kagasku that is running for president. Now they stopped the elections because behind the scene, George Kagasku is working with Viktor Orban, and the military intelligence operations that's coming from Donald Trump with Viktor Orban. They're moving information. They're working together behind the scenes to expose the operations of NATO, the European Union. All of these operations are going to start to come out of the human trafficking networks, of all the corruption that's connected to the European Union. And this is the fall of the European Union that's going to start to come out. It's a black swan event that's intentionally happening. And this is happening by forces that's going to collapse the banking system. As you can see, it's already happening. The banking system collapsed. The Rothschilds have taken out all their money. They have gone into private banking to hide all their welfare. Switzerland banks are hiding all their money inside of the mountains. That's connected to the Globalist, to the Davos group. That's also connected to the Rockefellers, the Rothschilds, the Orsini families from Italy. The top families inside of Europe are all hiding their money because this black swan event is happening. And now you have Germany that's inside an open collapse, and they're talking about their government collapse. France is collapsing. Then all of these countries, as Poland is going into a recession, different countries inside of Europe are in huge panic as the prices are rising on gas. Food is almost going into triple digits, and everybody is panicked as housing prices rise, gas, oil, and there's huge panic as Russia, the war escalates, and there's more panic inside of that. And behind the scenes in Romania, this huge operations that's happening with the United States military connected to Orban moving intelligence informations with military, all the knowledge of who's running all the full corruption system inside the democratic parties that's happening over in Romania. The people who are allowing all of these pedo operations, the gun operations, all the full networks, and how that's connected to the government elites, and then how it's connected to the military, of how they're weapons smuggling, but also they're inside of the human trafficking trade, the pedo operations. This storm is really big. These operations are really huge. It's a global operations. That's why you're seeing it in different countries. This is going to keep on coming. These silent coups, these open coups to stop elections, it's going to keep on going from the United States. It's going to Romania. It's going to go to Africa. It's going to keep on coming back to South America. All of these exposures that there's something going on with the halting of elections, the stopping of elections, of what's going to happen with Donald Trump in the United States. They're going to try to stop Trump from coming into office now. There's going to be a huge scandal that's going to take place, but those are important operations. Those are game theory operations to expose the Democratic Party, the deep state, the Rhino, the CIA operations, the military coup. Those operations in the United States is important for the early beginning of 2025. But talking about Romania, they're also exposing this full corruption that's going to come out. They're also inside game theory operations. They're letting the Democratic Party pull this coup, this silent military coup that's happening. But it's also going to end up exposing the full human trafficking networks that's being running by the government, intelligence agencies, and foreign powers that are controlling Romania. Elite globalist operations are controlling Romania. They're running the human trafficking networks into Europe. All this is going to start to come out. This is a massive exposure of the European Union that's going to be caught into human trafficking operations that is running all of these poof houses that's inside of Europe, all of the private operations of these pedo operations of children that are being smuggled into Europe, and then the weapons trade. At the same time, the people who are inside of Romania, the financial advisors that are going to be coming in, the new people who are going to start running the new government system, the financial systems, they're already talking with Musk lawyers. They're already talking with people inside of Texas. They're going in between Romania and between Texas. Donald Trump must, these new operations that Vivek Ramaswamy and Musk is creating together with a new financial government, also they're creating behind the scenes their own stock market. This stock market is going to watch all the operations of every money that's coming, every cent that's coming from the European Union, East Europe, that they're going to be working with. They're going to create this huge financial system that I've been telling you for years that it's coming. Trump is going to build a new financial system. Musk is building it with Trump. They're going to build a huge, gigantic cryptocurrency. They're building a new currency. They're building their own stock exchange. And this is what they're really doing. And these people from these different countries, important countries, they're going to head on over to Trump's new system. And that's Romania's new system. Now, when they're inside the trade, European Union's going to flip and they're going to want to join Trump's system. As they do this, all the human trafficking reports, everything has to be reported where the money's coming from, what everybody is doing to stop these operations. They have to tell the exposure of what's really happening with human child operations that's moving through Europe. Right now, if you Google Romanian human trafficking operations, the only thing that's going to pop up is Andrew Tate. Andrew Tate's doing this. Andrew Tate, he's the biggest articles on all the articles. Other than that, you'll see just the small little stories. Google's hiding everything because The Google operations that's connected to DARPA, the CIA, the military operations that are deep state from the Pentagon, they're running those operations that are there over in Romania. They're working with Mossad, they're working with MI6 from the UK. So that's why King Charles was in Transylvania, because he gets to enjoy what he wants to do with the kids with these operations. It's really sick and really awful. And at the same time, Jimmy Savile, which was the biggest pedo operations inside of the UK, was constantly in Romania on secret travels, traveling through Europe, making sure these operations were in place. It wasn't really Jimmy Savile. It's actually the people behind him that's going to create the European Union. It's going to be behind him is the military, the deep state military people who are into pedo operations that's inside of the UK. That's why this is huge, it's massive, it's global. As Trump goes after the human trafficking operations, as he's telling people that he's going to execute people who are abusing children, they're going to be executed. And he's going after all these operations from social media to enterprises, companies. Who's ever involved with this, Trump's going to take everything. Everybody's going to be caught inside of this. And there's huge panic. DC, the United States. Now these operations, in order to trade with Trump, in order to trade with Musk, in order to come into this new stock exchange, you have to clean your country. Romania is going to clean the country. Europe is going to clean the country. They have to do this. These are the part of the world operations. These aren't white hat operations. This is the hand of God operations to fix the world. Everything's going to come out. All these election frauds around the world are all going to connect together, and then they're going to come together and they're going to converge to show that their social media, their news networks, their government agencies were all lying. How is this possible that this happened all over the world? They're all going to come together as the United States coup is going to be exposed, as Donald Trump, as they're going to attempt to halt him from taking office. All this is going to connect. What happens in the United States, it's going to connect to all the countries. But right now, the deep state is trying to use Romania, because Romania is inside of NATO, and they're going to try to use Romania to start a war with Russia. So they're trying to push all these boundaries to use Romania to start a war. That way, they can have these articles to where NATO can go directly to war with Russia. And they're pushing this as hard as they can. At the same time, the same thing's going to happen. The exposure of NATO, corruption. Commanders inside of Romania are going to be caught in a huge, gigantic scandal coming in 2025 of how they were blaming Russia, how they allowed all of these operations to happen against governments controlling the elections, sending illegal weapons into Ukraine, sending all these illegal operations to go after Russia. Who allowed this to happen? Which military forces, what military commanders? It's going to lead to the highest top levels of Romanian corruption. Then it's going to come back to the pedo operations, human trafficking, then back to the weapons trade. Then it's going to connect back to the deep state intelligence agencies. Then it's going to connect back to the globalist operations. You're watching the storm operations take place. You're inside this black swan event that's going to grow, and you're watching the European Union collapse in real time. This is happening in several countries, and it's going to grow really quick and jump. We're in this elevated state of this year where it's growing so fast now. Now in these next months, it's super speeding up. The collapse. It's all going to collapse. In the end, everybody's going to go back to the United States dollar. Everybody's going to start to trade on the United States dollar, and they're all going to come back. And Mohammed bin Salman is going to ensure that people start to trade on the American dollar again. Trump, Mohammed bin Salman from Saudi Arabia have huge plans in place. At the same time, white hats inside Iran have huge plans in place with the oil, and then everything's going to start to switch back over to the United States dollar. At the same time, the BRICS nations are going to start to want to all trade with the United States dollar. Everything's being planned to come together, but it's going to expose these huge, gigantic operations of the human trafficking. They're going to go after it. These pedo operations that's connected to the globalists. All these countries are going to attack the globalists. They're going to come after this. You're watching the storm operations happening in real time. You're watching the collapse of countries, the exposure of the corruption. These important storm operations that are happening around the world, the plan to save the world is not just about, stopping trafficking, exposing the government, exposing the military-industrial complex system. These are very important, but what's connected to that is when you stop the human trafficking, when you stop the pedo operations, you expose the elites. That exposes the corrupt blackmail systems that's happening. That's really happening, like I'm saying, in all the countries. It's happening in Romania. Now, those black operations where they control government officials, they control the military, they control the intelligence agencies, the deep state are running these operations. When you collapse those operations, that's when a new financial system is going to be developed. And that new financial system is going to allow Romania to grow back, its independence, for people to be financially secure, where they can rise, where a lot of different countries, like European East countries that's a little more poor, all these countries are going to rise back up. Because the reason why they have high prices and the price of living, that they don't earn so much money, they don't make enough money, and then the reason why everything's really low and they're kind of in poor countries is because the government is stealing all the money. The elites are taking all the money, all the benefits, and the corporations, the companies are sending the money out of the countries, and they're going to the rich countries to support the elite operations. All of these are going to stop when all the operations, the pedo operations, human trafficking, these networks all collapse. When their government, Romania, stops money laundering operations of where they're sending money for their military, but the elites are stealing the money. The same in the United States, how the government is giving the money all the way to the military-industrial complex to build weapon systems, preparing for a war, preparing for another war. Half of that money is being stolen by the elites, and they control the government sectors through blackmail. They control the leaders through blackmail. So that's what's happening in Romania. That's what's happening in all these different countries around the world, including Europe. That's why even in Europe, there's a high cost of living. Everything's so expensive. The housing is becoming more expensive, food, everything. Taxes are going up because they're stealing the money, because of these operations that allow this to happen are through blackmail operations that run the governments, that run the people who create the laws, people who create the tax laws, people who run all of these operations. So you're watching a full collapse that's happening in Europe. That's going to lead to their own storm. All these countries are going to have their storm. So that's why I keep telling you, the collapse is hitting, the collapse is coming. We're inside of it already. Now we're speeding up. We're inside this huge black swan event, and then this black swan event is going to create other black swan events, the near nuclear war event, but that's going to bring exposure of NATO corruption. When we go into military tribunals through Europe, the operations are going to begin to where NATO has to answer, European generals have to answer, and they're going to be inside of these tribunals to expose all the operations. Then it's going to expose all the financial money laundering systems. Then it's going to connect to human trafficking, blackmail operations. And this is what the world operations is about. And that's why the number 17th was telling you the plan to save the world. This is connected all the way to human trafficking, to the children. Now you understand why Trump is going after the human trafficking, the pedo operations, and why Trump, the administration that he's creating from Kash Patel, is going to expose the whole corruption of the United Nations connected to human trafficking. That's going to connect to the globalist elites, and that's going to connect over to the operations that are going to start opening over in Europe. That's going to connect the huge, gigantic, massive human trafficking operations that's funding the European Union elites.